You can live 40 days without food, 3 days without water, 8 minutes without air. But you can't live a single second without hope. Hope is the oxygen of your soul. When you're down to nothing, when the lights go out, when your name is forgotten, when your hands are empty and your tears are loud, hope is the whisper that says, this is not the end. There are people in this room who've smiled in public and cried in private. People who lost everything but still got up this morning because something deep inside was hungry. Hungry for meaning. Hungry for mercy. Hungry for hope. So today I'm not talking to ones who have it all figured out. I'm talking to the weary, the broken. You almost gave up. If you're still here, it's because you're still hungry. And if you're hungry, you're not done yet. Let's go find hope again. Hope is not a mood that comes and goes with the weather. It's not a fragile emotion that crumbles when life gets heavy. No, hope is a divine provision, a sacred gift that descends into silence when words fail and tears speak. It's not something you manufacture on your own. It is poured into the soul from above when you're sitting in the ashes of everything you thought would last. Let's be real, life has a way of snatching the breath out of you. You can be walking one moment, building, dreaming, climbing, and then suddenly you're standing over the brokennesses of your plans with no idea how it all fell apart. You lose the job. The diagnosis hits. The phone rings in the middle of the night. The people who said they'd stay walk out without warning. And in those moments, strength doesn't mean a thing. Muscles can't move the weight of grief. Endurance can't outreach all. That's when you find yourself stripped down, bare, raw, and all you got left is your hunger. That ache in your soul, that's hope still breathing. That's not weakness, that's not failure. That is evidence that something inside you refuses to die, even when everything around you looks dead. And here's the truth, you didn't put that there. You didn't plant that seed. You didn't build that fire. It was given to you. Hope is a provision placed in your soul like a lamp before the storm ever came. You ever wonder how you made it through that season? That season when you couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't even cry some days? That stretch of time when you were surrounded by people but still felt invisible. You didn't get through that on sheer willpower. You made it because hope held you when you couldn't hold yourself. That joy you felt when you should have been drowning in sorrow. That smile that showed up for no reason in the middle of the pain. That peace that didn't make sense while chaos was crashing all around you. That wasn't you. That was provision. See, people will tell you just be positive, just stay strong, but strength can snap. Positivity fades, but hope it anchors. It reaches into the unseen. It grabs hold of the promise when the process makes no sense, and it holds you steady while everything else is shaking. That's not just motivation, that's divine intervention. And some of you have learned to hide that hunger. You've learned to cover it with laughter that isn't real, with busyness that's just distraction. You've silenced your soul so much that you don't even know you're starving. But tonight you feel it again. That stirring, that rumbling, that ache that says there's got to be more than this. That's not you losing control, that's the evidence that hope is still alive in you. Let me tell you something, the world didn't give you this hope and the world can't take it away. You didn't invent it, so you don't have to maintain it. You just need to feed it. Protect it. Let it live. Because when you stop depending on your emotions, your friends, your bank account, or your own strength, and you start walking on that provision that was placed in you, you'll realize you've had what you needed all along. Hope was never about the outcome. It was always about the source. And when your hope is anchored in the right place, nothing can break you. You might bend, but you will not break. You might stumble, but you will not fall. Because hope is not a feeling. Hope is a weapon. Hope is a light. Hope is a gift. Hope is divine. There is a lie that's been whispered into the ears of the weary for far too long, that if you're hungry, you must be broken. That if you're still searching, you must be lost. That if you're aching, something must be wrong with you. But I came to crush that lie. That hunger deep inside of you, it's not your weakness. It's your signal. It's a message in the soul that says, I was made for more. People will look at your hunger and try to shame you for it. They'll say you're too needy, too intense, too emotional, too desperate. They'll tell you to calm down, settle, be realistic. But how can you settle when something inside you is roaring like a lion saying this can't be all there is? You can't silence that kind of hunger. You can't pretend it's not there. You can't laugh it off with shallow smiles and polite small talk. Because when the hunger is real, when the hunger is spiritual, it haunts you. It chases you in your quiet moments. It follows you into rooms filled with noise, and it sits with you even in success. You see, some people thought that if they got the job, the car, the ring, the applause, the likes, the promotion, then the hunger would go away. But it didn't. And that made them angry, confused, maybe even bitter, because they reached the top of the mountain and still felt empty. Still felt the gnawing inside their chest. That's the moment they realized this hunger was never for things. It was never for applause. It was never for validation. This hunger was always for something deeper, something eternal, something untouchable by the world. And that's when the enemy tries to twist it. He'll take your hunger and use it against you. He'll whisper, see, you're still not enough. You're still lacking. You're still broken. But listen to me, the enemy wouldn't be fighting your hunger if it wasn't powerful. He wouldn't be attacking your appetite if it didn't have purpose. Your hunger is a sign that there is more ahead. It's a sign that your story isn't done. It's a divine alarm clock ringing in your chest, saying, wake up, there is still something for you to pursue. There's something that hasn't been touched yet, something that hasn't been built, something that hasn't been said, sung, written, healed, or born, and you've been chosen to carry it. Have you ever been in a room and felt out of place, not because of arrogance, but because your spirit knew there was more? Have you ever laughed at a joke that didn't feel funny, or nodded in conversations that didn't nourish you, because deep down your soul was crying out, there's more than this surface life? That's hunger. That's fire. That's the voice of the unseen reminding you that you were not made for mediocrity. You are not here to just breathe, work, pay bills, and die. You are not here to survive cycles of numbness and call it living. That hunger in your belly is holy. That craving in your spirit is righteous. Don't ignore it. Don't despise it. Don't stuff it down to make other people comfortable. Because there's joy on the other side of that hunger. There's laughter that comes after the breakthrough. There's peace that waits for the persistent, and when you stop treating your hunger like a sickness and start treating it like a signal, you'll rise with a new kind of power. Yes, the road may be lonely. Yes, the waiting might stretch you, but that hunger is not going to kill you, it's going to crown you. That ache is not the end of you, it's the beginning of everything you were born to do. So don't you dare apologize for being hungry. That hunger is the proof that your purpose is still alive. That hunger is the compass pointing toward your calling. And when the world tells you to settle, to be quiet, to blend and let your hunger speak louder, let it roar, let it drive you. Because the ones who change the world are the ones who refuse to be full on things that never satisfied their soul. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're just hungry. And that's exactly where your miracle begins. There comes a time in life when you reach the end of yourself, when your strength has nothing left to give, when you've tried everything, prayed every prayer, fought every fight, cried every tear, and you look around and realize your hands are empty. You're not just tired, you're weary, you're drained. The kind of drain that sleep can't fix. The kind of tired that 10 cups of coffee and a vacation won't cure. Because this isn't physical, this is soul-level exhaustion. You've encouraged others when you were bleeding inside. You've smiled when your heart was breaking. You've held everybody else up while you felt like you were drowning. And you told yourself, if I can just push a little more, if I can just hang on a little longer. But what happens when the pushing stops working? What happens when your grip slips and you're no longer hanging on, you're just hanging by a thread? That's where it gets real. That's when you find out what's holding you. Because when you run out of strength, hope steps in. Quiet, unseen, gentle, but unshakable. Hope doesn't make a grand entrance. It doesn't show up with noise and flashing lights. It often comes like a whisper in the dark, a flicker in the middle of a storm. The voice that says, I know you're tired, but this is not the end. And sometimes that whisper is the only thing that keeps you breathing. There's a deep seriousness in this place of surrender. It's not the weak who come here, it's the warriors. The ones who've carried too much for too long. The ones who've loved hard, fought hard, believed big, and now stand in a battlefield full of smoke, wondering what's left. The irony is you don't discover the strength of hope until your own strength fails you. You don't really learn what hope is until you've lost everything else you leaned on. There's a holy frustration in this moment too, because we're taught to fix things, to fight harder, to work longer. We're told that success comes to those who hustle, to those who grind. But there comes a point when no amount of hustle can break the chains you're in, and it makes you angry. Angry that you're doing all the right things, saying all the right words, and the breakthrough still hasn't come. Angry that life keeps knocking you down when all you want is a moment to breathe. And in that anger and that frustration, you either collapse or you let hope carry you. That's when you realize hope was never a backup plan. It was always the real anchor. You see, strength is about what you can lift, but hope is about what lifts you. When your body won't move, hope moves your soul. When your vision is blurred with tears, hope sees clearly. When your friends don't understand and your family can't help, hope sits with you in the silence and says, I'm still here. And let's be honest, there are moments when even hope feels distant. When the pain is louder than the promise. When all you want is to hear something, anything that reminds you you're not forgotten. But in those moments when everything else fades, hope still breathes beneath the surface. It keeps your heart beating. It keeps you waking up. Even if you don't feel it, it's working. Even if you don't see it, it's moving. And then something beautiful happens. You laugh again, for the first time in a long time, and it catches you by surprise. You breathe without feeling like you're suffocating. You find yourself speaking life into someone else, and you realize you're still here, not because you were strong, but because hope never let go. So don't be ashamed of your weakness. Don't hide your breaking points, because the moment you ran out of strength, that's the moment hope took over. And hope knows how to carry what you can't. Hope doesn't just walk beside you. It lifts you when your knees buckle. It covers you when the storm rages. It holds your broken pieces and still calls you whole. You thought your strength was what got you this far, but it wasn't. It was hope. And it's still holding you, Doc. There's a silence that falls over your life in the midnight seasons. A silence not outside you, but inside. When the prayers feel unanswered, the doors stay shut, and every day starts to look like the last. You show up, you try, but somewhere behind your smile, your soul is crying out, when does it change? When does the light come? You've watched time pass like a slow train on a rainy day, hoping, enduring. But the pain has been so deep, so prolonged, that it starts to feel like the suffering is your only story. But let me tell you something raw and real. There's a strange, sacred power that awakens in the darkest nights of your life. It's the kind of power you don't learn in comfort. You don't gain it in the spotlight. You earn it in the shadows when nobody's watching and everything's shaking. And what comes out of that place is more than survival. It's more than a comeback. It's transformation. Because the darkest nights don't destroy you, refine you. Have you ever had a night like that? A night where your pillow soaked up more tears than you ever admitted. A night where your body was in bed, but your soul was pacing the floor. Where you thought, if one more thing goes wrong, I don't know if I can keep breathing. That's not weakness. That's the breaking of the shell that held your old self. That's the moment when something deeper is trying to be born. There's a seriousness to this pain. It's not petty. It's not for show. It's not for social media. This is the kind of pain that rewrites your bones, changes the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you love. Because it hurts differently when your heartbreak has a history, when your pain has layers, and in that place right in the middle of the night, something begins to flicker. You don't even recognize it at first. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It might be a small moment, a deep breath you didn't think you could take. A phone call from someone you haven't spoken to in months. A song that finds you at just the right moment. And suddenly, in the middle of the storm, you feel it, hope. Hope doesn't wait until the sun comes out. It doesn't wait until your life is fixed. It shows up when everything is still broken, and it dares to whisper, there's still more. This is the joy of the soul that has survived the night, the kind of joy that doesn't giggle, it roars. The kind of laughter that's been earned, not given. The kind that spills out of you one morning when you realize you've made it one more day, and for the first time in a long time, the air feels different. That's the joy that only comes after the pain. That's the joy that glows like fire after being forged in heat. You don't just move on from pain like that. You emerge from it like someone who has walked through fire and came out not burnt, but brighter. The fire didn't kill you, it lit you. And now you don't just carry hope, you are hope. For someone else, for the person still stuck in their night, for the one crying in secret, for the one thinking they're alone. Your survival becomes a signal. Your joy becomes a testimony. Your laughter becomes a weapon. So if you're in that dark night right now, don't despise it. Don't curse it. Don't think it means you're cursed. Because this is not your burial ground, it's your birthplace. This night isn't meant to destroy you, it's designed to wake something up in you that can only shine when everything else has gone dark. The darkest nights produce the brightest flames of hope. And you, my friend, are about to burn with a fire that the night cannot put out. Have you ever found yourself in a place where the people around you couldn't see what was going on inside of you? Where they clapped for you, smiled at you, even envied you, but none of them knew the war you were fighting behind your own eyes. It's a strange kind of loneliness to be surrounded and yet unseen. To laugh out loud while something inside you is crying. to function, perform, serve, give, and show up while your heart is hanging on by a thread. And what makes it harder is when you start looking around in room and realizing that people have mistaken your silence for peace. They think you're calm because you're composed. They think you're okay because you're consistent. But they don't see the nights when you lie awake wondering, is this all there is? They don't hear the conversations you have in your mind. They don't know how many times you've had to drag yourself out of bed with nothing but willpower and whispered prayers. You see, when you're hungry for hope, it's not always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet ache, the longing you can't even put into words. You're walking around with a smile that doesn't reach your eyes and a strength that's built more on necessity than confidence. People call you strong, but they don't know you've had no choice. They call you resilient, but they don't see the toll it's taken. And here's where it gets serious, because when people don't see your hunger, they can't feed it. When they don't recognize your need, they won't respond. And so you learn to live with a deficit. You learn to adapt to being overlooked, to pour from an empty cup, to comfort others while your own soul is starving. There's a quiet anger that builds in moments like that. Not rage at people necessarily, but a burning question that won't leave your chest. Does anyone really see me? Not the version of me that performs, not the version of me that's productive, but me, the soul, the scars, the secret prayers, the hope that keeps flickering even after every disappointment. Sometimes it's not the pain that breaks you. It's the invisibility. It's knowing you've been holding on for so long and no one even noticed. It's realizing people are impressed with your results, but uninterested in your reality. That they'll cheer for your strength, but ignore your struggle. And that kind of neglect doesn't just wear out the body, it drains the spirit. But let me tell you something, what people didn't see, heaven saw. What others missed, heaven marked. You were never unseen, never unheard. Your hunger was recorded. Your ache was witnessed. Every time you smiled through the weight, every time you stayed kind when you wanted to scream, and you kept walking with broken feet, it was seen. And that matters. Because the hope you're hungry for, it doesn't come from people's applause. It doesn't come from their approval. It comes from something deeper. From the one who knows how to meet you right in that place of hunger and fill you without needing a word from you. No performance, no mask, just raw, real, sacred hunger. The most powerful moments in your life often begin when no one is watching, when the crowd is left, when the spotlight is off, when it's just you, your broken pieces, and a flicker of hope that refuses to die. That's where transformation begins. That's where you stop waiting for others to see you and start walking like you've already been seen. And from that place, something shifts. You start to stand taller, not because anyone gave you permission, but because your soul remembers its worth. You start to speak up, not because they listen, but because you found your own voice. You stop begging to be fed by others and start realizing you've had something inside you all along that no one could give and no one can take. So yes, it hurts to be unseen. Yes, it's painful to be overlooked, but don't let that pain become your identity. Let it become your ignition. Let it drive you deeper, higher, further. Because when you stop depending on external recognition and start living from internal revelation, you become unstoppable. You're not invisible. You're just being prepared in silence. And when the moment is right, the same people who didn't see your hunger will witness your rise. Not because you needed them to see, but because you never stopped burning, even when they weren't looking. Sometimes the most dangerous moment in your life isn't when you're broken. It's not when you're crying on the floor or praying in desperation. It's not when you're lost or confused or hurting. The most dangerous moment, the one that threatens your purpose the most, is when you're full but still empty. When everything looks right on the outside, but your soul is quietly starving. You've got the routine, you've got the rhythm, you're checking the boxes, you show up on time, you say the right things. People even look at you and say, you've made it, but you know better. You know what they can't see, that something's missing, something vital, something sacred. Because you can have a full calendar and an empty soul. You can have the applause of people and still feel you can have a room full of people and feel lonelier than ever. And it messes with your mind. It makes you question things you used to be sure about. It makes you wonder, why do I feel so empty when I've got so much? That's where the inner conflict begins, because your hands are full, but your heart feels hollow. And no one talks about that. No one warns you that success without substance is just another kind of prison. There's a strange pressure that comes when life looks good but feels wrong, because you start to feel guilty. You tell yourself, I should be grateful, I should be content, I should be happy. So you fake it, you smile harder, you distract yourself with more goals, more projects, more noise. But deep down, there's this gnawing ache, this quiet voice that won't shut up, a hunger that keeps whispering, there has to be more than this. And that hunger, it doesn't care about your image. It doesn't care about your resume or your reputation. That hunger isn't asking for surface things. It's crying out for depth, for something real, for something eternal. And when you ignore that hunger long enough, it turns into something else: restlessness, irritability, numbness. You stop laughing like you used to. You stop dreaming. You start surviving, just surviving. That's when frustration kicks in, and not just the kind you can brush off. This is deep, soul-level frustration. You feel it in your bones. You feel it when you wake up in the morning and can't explain why you're tired. You feel it when you're surrounded by people but still feel isolated. You feel it when you accomplish something big and 5 minutes later, you're already empty again, because nothing fills that place. Nothing touches that hunger except the one who created it. You weren't designed to live off the crumbs of temporary things. You were never meant to be satisfied with shallow praise or plastic connections. That deep hunger inside you isn't a flaw. It's not dysfunction. It's evidence. It's proof that your soul was made for more than just routines and checklists. It's the alarm going off inside you saying, don't settle here. Don't die here. Don't let this numbness become your normal. And let me tell you, there's joy on the other side of that confrontation. Yes, it's painful to realize that the things you chased didn't satisfy, but there's also freedom in that. Because now you don't have to pretend. Now you don't have to keep performing. You can stand in the middle of your full but empty life and say, I'm done faking full. That moment is powerful. That moment is sacred. Because that's the moment when the hunger becomes holy. That's when you stop feeding yourself with empty calories and start reaching for what truly nourishes. That's when the noise fades and you hear something real. That's when the joy returns. Not the loud laughing kind at first, but the deep, steady kind that starts to rebuild you from the inside out. It's not weakness to admit you're hungry. It's wisdom. It's not failure to say, this isn't enough. It's faith. Because the most dangerous place isn't when you're broken. It's when you fooled everyone, including yourself, into thinking you're full. But inside, your spirit is crying for something deeper. And that cry, that ache, that hunger, it's not something to silence. It's the beginning of your return. It's the start of your revival. It's where you get real. It's where you get free. And it's where you finally begin to live. There's a point in life when you realize that disappointment has a sound. It's not always a scream or a cry. Sometimes it's just the silence after a door slams shut. Sometimes it's the breath you hold when a promise breaks. It's the heavy pause in your spirit when something you believed for didn't come through. You don't always even talk about it. You carry it quietly. You learn how to function with it. But deep down, it lingers. It sits in your chest like a weight that never fully lifts. It's hard to admit that you're disappointed. It feels almost like betrayal, like if you say it out loud, you're being ungrateful or disloyal. So you keep it inside. You put a bandage over it. You smile through it. You tell yourself maybe it wasn't meant to be, while something in your soul screams, but I hoped for it. I believed for it. I waited for it. Disappointment doesn't just sting, it reshapes you. It can make you cautious, jaded, numb. You start lowering your expectations, not because you're wise, but because you're scared. Scared that if you reach again, believe again, stretch again, you'll just end up empty again. And if you're not careful, disappointment will harden your heart without you even realizing it. You'll stop dreaming, stop praying big, stop expecting beauty. You'll settle into a version of life that looks safe, but slowly steals your spirit. And here's the deep truth that many don't want to face. Sometimes the reason you're no longer hungry for hope isn't because you don't want it, it's because you've been burned before. You gave your all and it wasn't enough. You stood in faith and the mountain didn't move. You thought this was the one, but it fell apart. You were ready, but the opportunity vanished. And somewhere in the aftermath of all that pain, a quiet lie crept in. Maybe I'm not meant to have it. That lie is poison. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in the back of your mind when no one's around. It tells you you're forgotten, that you're average, that you're too late, that nothing will ever change. And when you start believing that, you stop reaching, you stop knocking, you stop moving. But listen to me, you weren't made to live in disappointment. You weren't created to walk around half expecting failure. You were made to hope. Hope is not a luxury, it's your lifeline. Hope is what keeps your heart alive in a world that tries to numb you. Hope is what pulls you forward when everything else says stay down. Hope is what breathes into dead places and says get up anyway. There's a joy that only comes when you decide to hope again after heartbreak. There is a strength that only awakens when you risk again after disappointment. And I get it. Risking again is terrifying. Putting yourself back out there, lifting your eyes again, daring to believe again. It feels like walking into the fire barefoot. But that's where miracles begin. That's where the healing starts. Not when everything is fixed, but when you choose to hope in spite of the damage. And when that happens, when you hope again, not because you're naive, but because you're courageous, something powerful rises in you. You become unshakable, not because your life is perfect, but because you've stared disappointment in the face and said, you will not define me. You start to smile again, not because everything's okay, but because your spirit is waking up. You start to dream again, not because the pain didn't happen, but because the pain couldn't kill your purpose. You start to walk with a different rhythm, a holy defiance, a boldness that says, I may be bruised, but I'm not broken. I may have wept, but I'm still walking. Disappointment might have knocked the wind out of you, but it didn't take your breath. You're still here, still standing. And the fact that you're even reading these words is proof that something in you refuses to give up. So let the tears fall if they need to. Let the memories rise if they must. But after you've felt it, stand back up. Try again. Pray again. Trust again. Hope again, because disappointment doesn't get the last word. Hope does. And hope never shows up empty. Sometimes the deepest hunger inside of us is not for success, recognition, or even love. It's for meaning. It's that soul level cry that says, I just want my life to matter. You can feel it in quiet moments. When the noise dies down and the distractions fade, you sit there alone with your thoughts, and something inside you aches. Not because you're in pain, but because you sense there's more. More to you, more to your purpose, more to your story than what you've seen so far. But the problem is we live in a world that tries to define meaning by metrics, likes, follows, status, income, applause. And if you're not careful, you'll start believing that you only matter if you're visible, if you're popular, if you're doing something that gets attention. And so we chase after validation. We run after platforms. We hustle to be seen, not realizing that in the process we're starving our soul of what it truly needs, purpose. See, there's a difference between being busy and being fulfilled. And some people are exhausted, not because they're lazy, but because they run in circles doing things that have nothing to do with why they were created. They wake up tired, go to sleep tired, live tired, and deep down, they know it. They know they're missing something. because they weren't made for noise. They were made for impact. They were made to carry light into dark places, to heal, to build, to lift, to love, to lead. But the world distracted them, and now they're just existing. There's a kind of sadness that settles over your life when you're out of alignment with your purpose. You can't always explain it, but you feel it. You feel it in the job that pays the bills but starves your passion. You feel it in the relationships that are convenient but don't call you higher. You feel it in the spaces where you've learned to blend in, but you were born to stand out. And it wears on you. It wears on your heart. You start to question if you'll ever find that more your soul keeps reaching for. But here's the truth. It was never about being the loudest, the biggest, or the most followed. It was about being faithful to what was put inside of you. That hunger you feel for more meaning, that's not a curse. That's a call. That's your soul remembering something heaven whispered to you before life ever touched you. It's your inner compass saying, don't settle here, keep going, keep searching. You're not restless because you're broken. You're restless because you were made for purpose. And yes, stepping into that purpose takes courage, because it usually doesn't come with a roadmap. It doesn't always make sense to other people. It rarely fits into a neat little box. Sometimes it means walking away from what's familiar. Sometimes it means letting go of who you used to be so you can become who you were always meant to be. And that's not easy. That's costly, but it's worth it. Because when you find your purpose, when you lock into the reason you were born, you come alive. That's when you stop comparing yourself to everyone else. That's when you stop chasing approval like it's oxygen. That's when you start waking up with fire in your eyes, not because life is easy, but because you finally know why you're breathing. That's when you realize that meaning isn't found in crowds, but in calling. It's not in being seen, it's in being sent. Sent to do something bigger than yourself. Sent to plant seeds no one may clap for. Sent to carry truth even when it's heavy. Sent to love even when it hurts. And here's what no one tells you. Even the smallest act done in purpose echoes in eternity. You might not go viral, you might not be trending, but when you move in purpose, heaven moves with you. When you speak in purpose, hearts are shifted. When you serve in purpose, lives are changed, even if you never see the results. So don't let this world fool you into thinking you're behind, you're not late. You're being prepared. And don't let it convince you that your hunger for meaning is weakness. It's sacred, it's holy. It's a signal that there's still work for you to do. That your story's not over, that there are still things inside you that the world needs. You don't have to understand the whole plan, you just have to take the next step. Walk toward your purpose, feed that hunger, let it grow, let it guide you, because once you find what you were made for, you'll realize you were never lost, you were just being led. There's a moment in life when you have to face the truth about what's been holding you back. And it's not the obstacles you can see. It's not the people who don't believe in you. It's not the setbacks or failures or even the disappointments. It's you. Sometimes the person standing in the way of your destiny, the one preventing you from moving forward, is the very person you look at in the mirror every day. That's a hard truth to swallow, because it means accepting that you're not the victim in your own story. It means facing the parts of you that you'd rather hide, the habits that keep you stuck, the fears that keep you silent, the doubts that keep you stagnant. It means realizing that all the potential you've been waiting to tap into isn't locked away somewhere in your circumstances. It's locked inside you, and the key is within your hands, but you've been too afraid to turn it. We all like to think that it's life's circumstances that shape us, and to some extent they do, but what we often fail to see is that life isn't just happening to us, it's happening with us. We are active participants in the unfolding of our own stories, and too often we sabotage ourselves by staying in the comfort of the familiar. We're afraid to grow. We're afraid to change. We're afraid to face the reality that we might have to leave some things behind. Things we thought were essential, but are actually chains keeping us bound. Fear is a powerful force. It creeps into our hearts and minds, wrapping its cold fingers around our courage, whispering lies about our inadequacy, reminding us of past failures, convincing us that what we want is too much or too far out of reach. And so we freeze, we settle, we shrink, we make excuses. We tell ourselves, I'm just not ready, or maybe it wasn't meant to be, or I don't deserve it. And in doing so, we slowly start to believe those lies. We believe we are less than what we are, that we're incapable, that we're not worthy of the dreams we've held in our hearts. But here's the painful truth. Those lies are not your reality. They're just shadows. They're the false stories that have been told to you by fear, by failure, by the world. And the worst part is, we start to live by them. We start to live like we're broken, like we're too much, like we're too little. And all the while we ignore the truth that's right in front of us, that we have everything we need to move forward. The courage, the wisdom, the strength. It's all inside us, just waiting to be activated. The change has to start with you. It has to start with a decision to stop believing the lie that you're not enough. It starts with a choice to let go of the excuses and the comforts that keep you from stepping into your future. It starts with taking responsibility for where you are, for how far you've come, and for how much farther you can go. It's easy to say, if only I had more time, or if only I had more money, or if only I had more support. But the truth is, those are just excuses. The real question is, what are you going to do with what you have right now? You have time, you have resources, you have support, even if it's not in the form you expected, but you have to use what's in your hands and stop waiting for the perfect moment that will never come. And it's not just about what you do, it's about how you see yourself. Do you see yourself as a victor or a victim? Do you see yourself as someone who's capable of rising or someone who's destined to fail? The truth is, the battle is won in your mind before it's ever fought in your life. If you can change the way you think about yourself, you can change the way you move through the world. If you start believing you are worthy, capable, and strong, the rest will follow. If you start seeing every setback as a lesson, every failure as a stepping stone, every challenge as an opportunity to grow, you will rise in ways you can't even imagine. But it's hard, it's messy, it's uncomfortable, and sometimes you will want to quit. Sometimes you will want to give in to the lie that it's easier to stay stuck. But the truth is, you can't go backward. You can't unlearn what you've already realized. You can't forget the hunger for change that's burning in your heart. And if you try to ignore it, it will keep growing louder until it forces you to confront it. You owe it to yourself to fight through the fear, to push through the discomfort, to stop playing small. You owe it to yourself to stop hiding behind your excuses and your doubts. You owe it to yourself to embrace the possibility that you can be more than you've ever been, do more than you've ever done, and live a life that aligns with the dreams God has placed in your heart. The truth is, you're not waiting on life to change. Life is waiting on you to change. It's waiting on you to take responsibility for your journey, to step into your power, to stop shrinking and start rising. Your destiny is not dependent on anyone else's approval or permission. It's yours. But you have to claim it. You have to stop letting fear and doubt hold you hostage. You have to stop hiding from the greatness inside you. So look in the mirror today and make a decision. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect conditions. Because the truth is, the only thing standing in your way is you. Take a step forward. Choose courage. Choose to believe. Because when you do, nothing can stop you. The only limits you have are the ones you place on yourself. And when you break through those, you will finally see just how powerful you truly are. There comes a moment in every life when you have to make a choice, either to settle for what is comfortable, familiar, and easy, or to rise up and face the challenge that lies before you. It's not a decision that happens in a single dramatic moment. No, it's a quiet, consistent series of small decisions, one after another. It's about whether you let your circumstances define you or whether you'll use your circumstances as the fuel to define your future. You see, the easy choice is always to give up, to step back, to let the weight of life's burdens crush you into submission. It's easy to say, I can't do it, to let the weight of failures and disappointments make you shrink into yourself, convincing you that you're just not enough. But what if you're wrong? What if the truth is that your strength doesn't come from perfection, from smooth sailing, or from everything working out just as you planned? What if your strength is found in your ability to keep going when it feels like the world is against you? What if the breakthrough you've been waiting for is not on the other side of success, but in the act of enduring, of showing up, even when you feel like you have nothing left to give? There's a quiet power in persistence. It's a kind of strength that doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It just shows up day after day, season after season, when no one else is watching. And here's the real truth. Persistence isn't about running hard when you feel strong. It's about taking one more step when you don't feel like you can go on. It's about keeping your eyes on the future when the present feels like it's falling apart. And yes, sometimes it feels unfair. Sometimes it feels like everyone around you is moving forward while you're stuck. Sometimes it feels like you're doing everything right, but it doesn't seem to matter. You're still waiting for your breakthrough, still praying for change, still hoping for things to turn around. And it's frustrating, it's maddening. The fear creeps in, doesn't it? The fear that maybe all this effort is for nothing, that maybe you're just wasting your time and your energy. And for a moment, you might even think that it's easier to just give up. It's easier to say, this is enough. I've tried, I've prayed, I've hoped, but nothing has changed. But here's the thing about persistence. It doesn't rely on what you can see in front of you. Persistence relies on what you believe is coming. And even when nothing around you seems to be shifting, even when it feels like you're in the same place you've always been, persistence is planting seeds. It's believing that even when the harvest doesn't come immediately, the ground is still being worked. The soil is still being prepared. The change is happening beneath the surface. Persistence is what gets you through the nights when you can't sleep because the weight of your worries is too heavy. It's what pushes you out of bed when you'd rather stay hidden beneath the covers. It's what keeps you going when the road gets harder and harder and your energy is running low. And that's when you realize persistence isn't just about fighting for something external. It's about fighting for yourself. It's about refusing to let your current circumstances define your future. It's about saying, I will not quit. I will not let this moment be the end of my story. I will not allow the struggle to silence my dreams. This isn't a fight you can win in a day. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon that requires patience, resilience, and the willingness to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when the finish line seems miles away. But in the process, something incredible happens. You start to change. Your character grows. Your spirit strengthens, and little by little, your resolve becomes unshakable. You start to look back at the journey you've been on, and you realize that all the pain, all the setbacks, all the hard moments have been building you into someone capable of facing even bigger challenges. You start to realize that you weren't just surviving, you were being shaped.